In 1979, gay activist and artist Gilbert Baker designs the world's first pride flag. It was also originally hand-dyed, and he refused to trademark it, saying that the flag is a symbol that belongs to the entire homosexual movement. Little known fact, however, is that every stripe symbolizes a different meaning. For example, the pink color symbolizes sexuality, the red stripe symbolizes life, orange stood for healing, while yellow for sunlight, green was for nature, turquoise for magic, indigo and blue for serenity and harmony, and violet for spirit. In the same year, however, two colors were dropped, that of pink and teal, which, as I mentioned before, represented sexuality and magic, in order to make the flag more respectable and pander to a wider audience. 1 year later, there is a new incarnation of the flag with a black stripe added to it. This was to symbolize America's mishandling over the AIDS epidemic, as well as to mourn those who were lost due to it. Now, the flag remained as such for several decades until 2017. This is when the color black and brown has been added to the flag. These colors are supposed to represent BIPOC people, something which baffled people on multiple fronts. Number one is the expression BIPOC. BIPOC is not something that most people use in common language. In fact, if you happen to have a black friend and you call him, "Hey, BIPOC, can you get over here?" you're probably going to get slapped. And secondly, a flag that represents sexuality includes now races of people. How does that make sense? Doesn't it water down from the meaning of the flag? Now, the reason this doesn't make much sense is that everyone looking at this is looking at it from a bottom-up perspective. They are analyzing the situation as if the activists, the LGBT community, has decided themselves to add these extra colors. In reality, what is happening is a top-down approach. You see, the wisest minds in the United States who have been working hard at the academia have come up with these concepts, which is why the language used is that of BIPOC. It is an academic language, something that the average Joe on the street rarely uses. And the people at the academia, they are very concerned with reorganizing society in their image. You see, these people want the government to be stronger. As such, they created an entire ideology based around dismantling the structural systems of oppression in a heteronormative, capitalist, patriarchal society. And the way they plan to achieve this is the way that the Russians plan to subvert the United States during the Cold War.
Enemy is bigger and heavier than yourself. It would be very painful to resist his direct strike. If a heavier person wants to strike me in the face, it would be very naive and counterproductive to stop his blow. The Chinese and Japanese judo art tells us what to do. First to avoid the strike, then to grab the fist and continue his movement in the direction where it was before, right? Until the enemy crashes in the wall. You see? So, what happens here? The target country obviously does something wrong. If it's a free democratic society, there are many different movements within the society. There are obviously, in every society, there are people who are against this society. They may be simple criminals, ideologically in disagreement with the state policy, conscientious enemies, simply psychotic personalities who are against anything, right? And finally, there are a small group of agents of a foreign nation, bought, subverted, recruited, right? The moment all these movements will be directed in one direction, right? This is the time to catch that movement and to continue it until the movement forces the whole society into collapse, into crisis, right? So that's exactly the martial art tactic. We don't stop an enemy. We let him go. We help him to go in the direction we want them to go. Okay?
In other words, you got people at the academia which want to change the current American system, and they look towards the LGBT community salivating and saying, oh, we can use those people to further our cause. And this is why they created the concept of intersectionality, where you have marginalized groups that the academia declares they're being marginalized, and they're lumping them together under the same flag. And as they are doing so, the original concept, that of gay rights, is becoming smaller and smaller in order to make room for the other ideologies coming in. In other words, as I mentioned before, the black and brown stripes, which have nothing to do with sexuality, are obviously taking space. And then you have this triangle, which is supposed to represent asexual people. Then, of course, you have the trans flag, which was initially represented by the many colors, but now it needs to have its own space. And as time goes on, we're going to see the flag shrinking and shrinking to the point where we have unironically reached this abomination. This was used in the Dublin Pride March of June the 25th, 2022. And as you can notice here, the original concept, that of LGBT rights, is almost non-existent on the flag. It is so small that it's turning into a dot. And of course, on the background, you have the color blue and yellow, which represents the Ukrainian flag because, yet again, this is the modern issue. This is the current topic. Now, I don't know if the Ukrainians consider themselves or want themselves to be part of the LGBT community, considering that I am here in Eastern Europe and I can tell you we're not very progressive. In fact, some would call us reactionaries. We're very different from California culture. But it's also interesting, right? Because like the Ukrainians aren't a marginalized community. So you may be wondering, what do they have to do with the flag? And the answer is, it's all ideology right now, okay? So the ideology is just eating away at what the flag used to be. In other words, if you don't support Ukraine, well, you're against the LGBTs. If you don't like the LGBT, well, you can't support Ukraine either. So this is how it actually works. It's a package deal. You can't just pick and choose what you like. You gotta have all of this. All of these things, right? And I guess it's going to be very interesting to see how this flag is going to look like 5 years in the future. I guess it's the people at the top that are going to make these important decisions. We're just going to carry on the flag. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the comment section. Also, if you like this video, please do consider throwing in a super thanks. Take care.